Hey, folks. Hope you guys are doing well today. Glad to have you in the room with me. This is our seemingly weekly now professional development session. It's all good. Glad to have folks in Clubhouse with me. I can't seem to figure out how to go live on Facebook right now with this new laptop. Probably should have tested it out, Marcus, before I did this, but I thought I could just make it work. Like, apparently I can't. Anyway, I'm glad to have y'all in the house with me. And for those of you that have questions, as always, feel free to leave them in the chat in Zoom. If you're on Clubhouse, shoot me a DM. I'll be glad to engage you there. And let's go ahead and jump in. Let me go ahead and share my screen. I want to talk about this topic: talent, skill development. This is really important, right? I've clearly we're in the business of doing this, guys. Given the work that we do in professional development, workforce development, we're in this business of building talent, right? We do it so much and so often for an audience that, quite frankly, is external to our company. Think about it. We do professional development for people who are struggling, people who are dealing with difficult challenges. We do professional development, workforce development for people who are coming out of prison. We do professional development for all types of people. And quite frankly, we got kind of good at it. Let me ask you a question though, by a show of digital hands on Zoom. And if you don't know how to raise your hand on Zoom, you want to tap your name and click on raise hand. How many managers do we have in the house today? If you manage staff, how many managers do we have in the house today? By a show of digital hands. And if you're on Clubhouse, you can raise your hand and I'll put it back down afterwards. Let's see here. I don't see any hands raised. Okay. Marcus typed in hand. All right. So clearly, okay. So Cynthia, you got your hand raised. How many managers do we have in the house today? Tap your name and hit raise hand. That way I'll be able to know what's going on. Let's see here. All right. Just Cynthia, I know there are more managers in the room. So text in if you are a manager of people. Okay, Maggie got her hand raised. Good. Any others? All right, Danita, I see you in the room. Thank you so much. All right, so we got a few managers with their hand raised. Marcus got it figured out. Great. So because we got managers in the room, and I know that there are more people who are managers who are in the room, let me just kind of ask this question. How many of you guys, by show of digital Zoom hands, feel like you do a good job developing talent within your own teams? How many feel like they do an awesome job training people on your team to do their job by show of digital hands on Zoom or on Clubhouse? All right, so there are no hands raised. I'm not sure if this is because you guys are like being brutally honest about your own management and leadership. I see smiles. Okay. So it looks like you guys are probably being honest. So am I to take it that you feel like you can do a better job with managing your people, developing your people? Can I get some head nods there? Is that a yes? Maggie, you so supportive, Maggie. I appreciate it. I can always count on you. I know it. I really can. All right, so let's assume Maggie's speaking for the room because you guys aren't saying a word to me, and Danita can't say anything. She's on Clubhouse. Cool. All right, so we need to have this conversation, guys, about developing talent because there's this idea of what we do, right? Let me just make sure we do single pages. There's this idea of what we do and how we do it. We do it so well for an external audience. But I think we all struggle, as indicated by the lack of hands, that we don't do management well, talent development well as managers, as leaders. Why do we do that? Why is there struggle? I want to walk through some ideas with you. Feel free to chat at me in the comments. Danita, you're gonna have to do it via via Instagram DMs. Hey Kim, come on into the room. In the chat comments, I want you to DM me, right, as I'm going through these points as to why we don't do a good job developing talent. I think part of the issue is there's this superiority complex. Now, before you write me off and roll your eyes at me, hear me out. When I entered into the nonprofit space years ago, I entered into the space broken. At the time, I was getting ready to intentionally, and keyword getting ready to, I was finna jump into the corporate world. I mean, I leave corporate and jump into nonprofit because my heart was calling me to it. Before I could do that, I got fired. I got fired, lost my job, was in economic chaos for the subsequent months that followed all of what happened, right? And I eventually found my way into the nonprofit space. And for me, when I got really, really into it, and I realized, yeah, this is where I want to be. This is pretty accurate. This is what I felt. This is what I thought it would be. I figured out that people who are in a nonprofit space are sometimes some of the least nice people. I know I didn't say that right, but they are not nice people. They don't have the best customer service. They're not the most tactful people. They don't treat their customers with the utmost value that they truly do possess. And it's pretty consistent across the board with multiple nonprofit entities that you can take a look at, and it's like that. NGOs, government, nonprofit, customer service stinks. And what I discovered was that part of the reason why it stinks is because there's this philosophy, there's this mentality that our customers need us, we don't need them. In the chat, tell me that I'm wrong. Danita, if I'm wrong, raise your hand. There's this philosophy that we behave as if our customers need us, but we, as staff, as professionals, we don't need them. If you disagree, use the chat to do so, because I want to make sure we're kind of moving in the same direction, on the same page, thinking in the same direction, because we need to go somewhere with our training today. Man, Marcus, I appreciate the support. All right. So there's this philosophy that they need us, we don't need them. Why is that? Think about the concept. Thank you, Norbert. Think about the concept here. If our clients were doing great, they wouldn't need to come to the AJC. If they knew what they were doing, if they had their blank together, they wouldn't need to come to the next Strive training. If they had the discipline in place, they wouldn't need to come to the fatherhood training program, right? These are the things that kind of go through the mind of nonprofit staff, particularly those on the front line, and particularly those who aren't used to what it means to have great customer service. What ends up happening is that those things may not ever be said out loud, but can I tell you guys that those things emanate from your behavior and treatment, and your customer feels it? They absolutely feel. This is why they come into the office when we used to be in the office screaming and kicking and doing all types of wild mess. Remember when we used to go to the office? Remember those days about like a year ago, back in the day, when we had office and desk chairs and all that good stuff, right? Remember that? And remember when we had those moments where customers would act out? You ever ask yourself why? Now, the cynical you may say because they crazy, right? That's the cynical you. But here's the truth. Could it be that they had a terrible customer service experience with our product or our service? Or they had a bad experience before coming into the office and our lack of customer service didn't help? What ends up happening is that these moments happen. And I actually agree with you. Some of the worst, we get the leftover staff and professionals in nonprofit. I don't know why, but we certainly get the worst. I absolutely agree with you, Ian. What ends up happening is that we as staff who are unskilled, untrained, in areas of customer service, de-escalation, customer management, we end up exacerbating the issue and making it worse. Making it worse. Sometimes we make it worse because we get down and dirty with the client. Sometimes we make it worse because you know what? We don't know what we're doing. A lot of us feel as though that if we just simply give the client what they want, they're gonna stop. Can I tell you that that is absolutely not true? That is fake news. That is a lie. That is inaccurate information. Check my email. Check my email. Client who came through a program a year ago, give him the world, and he still feel like we owe him everything. And giving your clients everything that they want or what you think they want doesn't fix the problem, guys. So when it comes to talent development, talent skill building, right? I'm starting off the training. I'm starting off this conversation from this perspective, the perspective of we got to figure out how to be better at our jobs, and therefore training our people to do a better job, right? I'm not sure we can do anything at this point about weeding out bad, unskilled people in critical mass. Not in the industry, certainly not in the company, but we can do a better job managing and holding people accountable. We can certainly do that. You can do a bang up interview job and have people go through this process to measure fit and skill and whatever, and you still can miss some who would get by you, and you still got to manage those people. The solution isn't always to quit or to have them quit, rather, or fire them or to write them up every day. That isn't necessarily going to get it done. The way to train your middle skill managers, the way to train middle skill staff, which includes our clients who comes through the door, takes our training programs, the way to prepare them for reality is for you as a manager, as a leader, to hold the line and to be a consistent person that delivers. I need y'all to hear this today as you kind of process where I'm going to go with this. The only way to properly manage middle skill people, anybody for that matter, but especially middle skill people, is for you to be super consistent in what you do as a manager, super consistent as a leader, super consistent in your systems, your process, the way you think, the way you process information, the way you deliver content, the way you lead people. You got to be super consistent. People respect consistency. No matter who it is, what they got going on, they respect consistency. So, as I kind of walk through two concepts with you on how to develop talent, I need you kind of to deal with this kind of internal mechanism you have going on right now, where you're questioning, do I have the consistency inside? Am I consistent at anything, personally, let alone professionally? Keep it simple. Are you consistent with the time you log on to Zoom every morning? Are you consistent with how you when you wake up in your routine during this pandemic period? Are you consistent with the way you communicate? How often, how frequent you check your emails? If you still get voice messages, how often you check those when the alert comes up? Are you consistent with delivering your reports on time to your funders, to your supervisors? Fill in the blank. Is there anything about you professionally that's consistent? Now we know you log out and go home on time. That we do know. Everybody. In fact, y'all are so good at it. Y'all sometimes leave work early just to make sure you get home on time. Y'all laughing because it's so true. My staff's like, yeah, right. We here to like 6, 7 o'clock every day. It's a lie, Dr. Clark. It's a lie. Oh man. But our staff, they're really good at logging out early or on time at least. That's the one thing they're consistent at, right? But what else? What else are you consistent at? I mean, and I'm asking this question so you can process this internally. Like this is like personal development, professional development, and quite frankly, many of us don't work in close proximity to each other, so we can't quite judge each other. This is all about you. This is about You analyzing yourself, being honest and truthful to yourself and with yourself. How consistent am I in what I do? And is my inconsistency holding me back from being better as a manager, better as a leader, better as an exemplary employee, better at what it means to represent CRI and represent all that I do in this industry for our clients, for our customers, for our funders? Am I better? Can I be better? Can I do it? In the chat, take a moment. Take a moment. Chat in to me. What's one thing you want to be more consistent at regarding your job? Tell me one thing you want to be more consistent at when it comes to your job. Empathy. Yeah, I feel you, Norbert. Empathy. Yep. Tell me one thing you want to be more consistent at when it comes to your job. It's not personal, it's professional. It's business. Policy. Yeah, I get it. Yep. Starting and ending meetings on time. Yep. Yep. Expectations. Yep. Come on, chat into me. What else you want to be consistent at? Talk to me. And this is not about, this is a judgment free zone, right? This is all about you. What do you want to be more consistent at when it comes to your work, your job? There's no wrong answer here. Setting boundaries, yes. Accountability to achieve my goals, yeah. Anyone else? What do you want to be more consistent at when it comes to your job? Hey, Latanya. A few more folks. If you typed one, you got more issues you want to be more consistent at, type it in, type it into the chat. This is for you. This is about you. This is not about me. It's not about the right answer. There's no right answer. It's all about you. What do you want? What do you want? It's right off the tip of your tongue. If there's a such thing, Maggie, sure. I'm gonna tell you, Maggie. She wrote work-life balance. I'm gonna tell you. Some say there's no such thing. Some say there's a thing called rhythms, understanding the rhythms. But I feel you. I totally get it. Totally get it. Feel more productive. COVID taking a toll. Got it. Come on now, talk to me. You want more consistent training or provide it, whatever. Yeah, got it. Come on. What do you want to be more consistent at? This is personal, guys. What do you want? What do you want? This is about you, not me, you. You guys should be flooding the chat line there. Let's see here. Nobody's saying anything. So you guys don't want much. You guys only want a few things. Is that like the case? Is that what it is? What is it that you want to be more consistent in? There's a reason I'm asking this question, guys. Latonya, while you're listening, I have a whole training on Zoom. If you want to text in, hit me up on Instagram. What is it that you want to be more consistent in? You should be flooding. These things should be on your mind all the time. Where do you fall? Where do you falter a lot? Where do you make a lot of mistakes? Those are the places you should be more consistent in. Do you do a great job holding people accountable? Do you meet your own deadlines? Do you show up on time? Do you have the best customer service? Are you good at project management, product and project delivery? Are you late to meetings? Are you attending meetings and playing on your phone because you're not interested? Like, talk to me. Where do you struggle? Where do you want to be more consistent? Asking for assistance. Got it. That's a biggie. It's important. It matters. Seeking out mentors to guide me through challenges. Get it. I get it. Come on, talk to me. Case notes. I feel you. I feel you, Norbert. We all should be typing in case notes. I feel you. Zoom meeting overlaps. What does that mean? What does that mean, Kimberly? Not scheduling overlapping meetings? What do you want to get better at? Respecting time. Yeah. This list should be much longer, right? And I'm bringing this up because the stuff you want to be more consistent at are the things you likely expect from your staff, but yet you don't manage it well. There's a huge hypocrisy in how we do things as managers, where we don't do something well, yet we expect it from our own staff. We don't respect time, but we want our staff to. We don't enter case notes consistently, but we want our staff to. I feel you, Norbert. We don't help our own coworkers, but we get mad when our staff don't help their coworkers. Y'all see how this works? And we get mad, particularly when we need it the most, when we want them to do it the most. That's not how that works. That's not how life works. We're talking about talent, the skill building and assessments. Why middle skill managers are valuable to employees? They are the linchpin to the business. You can't live without them. You need them. So the question is, how do you develop them? Two things I want to share with you today. First thing is, there has to be an alignment of personal values. You got to align personal values. There needs to be joint interest and commitment between the employee and the organization. What is it that we value and want? What is it that we stand for? What is it that we fully expect from our staff? And what is it that they want? And do those two things work together? How many times have you developed or hired somebody that truly doesn't value what you value or does not value what your team values? How many times does that happen to you? As I'm looking at the screen, happens all the time, right? How many times have you brought on folks who talk a good game, but their behavior and their outcomes, they are not consistent with what you expect and what you do and what you want? How many times have we kept people on staff longer than we should have who weren't a fit because there wasn't deep alignment between us and them? Does it happen a lot? So, what can we do different to develop talent? Perhaps it starts with making sure that before we hire somebody, we focus on hiring people who obviously have the skills to make it happen, but we hire people who have values and a value system that's consistent with what we want and what we have. Making team selections, inviting people to be a part of our life and our process who already have very similar close values that we have and share. This means that during the interview process, during the talent evaluation process, we're utilizing that process to determine who is this person that's sitting in front of me? Who is this person that is presenting themselves to me as a candidate for this position? That's it. When somebody gets the job, it's very hard to try to force them to fall in line with expectations that you have of them. It's very hard. It's already hard to change adults or to think you can change adults and change their behaviors. But it's even harder when they get the job and they're comfortable. It begins with selecting the right team members. It begins with understanding what you value, what the company value, what the team values. And from there, determining who of the qualified pool of candidates has similar values or has enough of these values that I can get along with them, even in the worst of the worst moments. Our interests and our commitments should be joint, should be consistent, should be on the same page. And asks, how about utilizing a person's skills and experience instead of using the square peg, round hole method, letting the person do a job they are passionate about? Yeah, that works if they can get the job done in the first place, right? Because at the end of the day, I think this still comes down and turns to your question. It still comes down to making sure, one, if we're hiring for a case manager, we shouldn't be hiring for someone who doesn't have case management skills, period. There are a lot of people who apply for jobs that we posted over the past 12 months who don't have the skill set nor have shown any significant interest in the job. How do you know? When you look at their resume, they don't have any volunteer experience trying to be a case manager. They don't talk about what they're doing at their local church, case managing the kids in the kids choir. They don't have any history of case management. They're just applying for jobs. I postulate that we're so desperate for people sometimes we don't even look at their resume and we try to make them fit during the interview process. You got to be able to bring in people who have the skill from Jump Street. If during the interview process you notice that they're not utilizing the right words or language, they don't have the right lingo that articulates knowledge about case management, that person from Jump Street is not a fit, just from a skill perspective. Secondly, and what I deem more importantly, after you qualify somebody as a fit because of skill, then it becomes a personality fit, a goal fit, a value fit. What is it that I value that makes this person or the person I'm trying to hire super important to me? Been hiring people for the past 4 years in this job, right? Every one of them that works for me directly, that's on my inner circle team, it's about fit, values, core values. What is it that they value? Do they value doing things that I value? Do we like the same things professionally? Do we care about the same things? Do we see the world similarly enough that makes my value system relevant to them so that they can understand me and still be their unique self? In terms of letting the person do their job that they're passionate about, in order to be able to do your job that you're passionate about, you got to be good at it in the first place. And I argue we don't have enough good people with good skill in place. So you got to align personal values, guys. Secondly, you got to build self leaders. Now, some of you have heard me say this before, but I'm really big on self leaders. Self leadership is about leading oneself to meet personal and professional goals. The ability to influence oneself, the ability to encourage oneself, the ability to spark a fire within oneself to do something. It's a real theory, it's a real concept. Dr. Mans and Dr. Neck pioneered this concept years ago. Leadership at its core is about influence of other people, external forces, external people, external groups. Self-leadership is the same, but it's all about you. What is it about you that makes you do what you do? As you're hiring staff, as you're bringing people on, as you're developing talent, middle skill talent, this is something that either you hire for or you teach folks how to do it. Not everybody knows how to inspire oneself, influence oneself to do X. So the question is, how do you teach it? Okay. Number one, let me just say this, guys. It's easier in theory to teach self-leadership than to teach personal values. Personal values precede you. They are cultivated out of the womb. Personal values are developed and based upon one's upbringing, etc. So it's very hard to teach personal values for an adult who's been hardened by life. Personal values don't shift unless life forces those values to shift, right? You guys are like stoic. Am I right or am I wrong? Right? When life happens, when crap happens, that's when people grow up and evolve, not because you said it, not because you encouraged it. When crap happens, like you lose your business, like you lose your homes and your car, like you're sleeping on somebody's floor trying to survive, like you almost become homeless. If y'all didn't know, that's my story. That crap changed me. And that's how I got to the nonprofit world, working in public housing, viewing people totally different because I had my own experience. That's why I get hot under the collar when we don't treat our clients with full respect. For those on Clubhouse, this is internal staff training. Welcome in as you guys are engaging. If you have questions, comments, DM me. But that's how I got the way I am, because life happened. So it's easier to teach self-leadership than personal values. So how do you teach self-leadership? First, it begins with understanding what the heck is that. Dr. Clark never even heard of that before, and I heard you mention it before, but I still don't understand it. It's three concepts that make up self-leadership. Number one, it's the mental, visual, intellectual concepts or things that you consider mentally that begins the leadership, self-leadership process. What you think, how you think, what you visualize, all these intangible experiences in your head. That is the first leg of self-leadership. This is why a good leader sets the visual tone. They provide vision, they provide perspective about what's going on. The hard work of a leader is forecasting from a vision perspective what we're doing. Seeing tomorrow, being able to visualize tomorrow, being mentally there enough to see it so descriptively that you can now articulate it to other people. This is what leadership is. You can't influence folks when you can't see tomorrow. You ever been under a leader who can't see tomorrow? So how are we going to be? Is our program going to be around tomorrow or next fiscal year? I don't know. We still have a program in New Haven next year. Mm. What you mean? Oh no, weren't you in the meetings? Don't you know what our funders are saying? No. What do you mean you don't? Like, this is absolutely crazy. I've been there, done that. It is absolutely insane when you work for someone who cannot see tomorrow, even though tomorrow's not here. It's very prophetic, if you will. It's very visualistic. A person who sees into tomorrow has to have a insane imagination and believe it, because tomorrow's not here, nor is tomorrow promised. But a good leader sees, they visualize, they create these mental images of tomorrow, because this is what we're chasing after, guys. Marcus has been with me the longest time. I have been yelling for the rooftops, Marcus, I'm going to go to New Britain. Marcus, I'm going to go to New Britain. Marcus, I'm going to go to New Britain. Every year. And I swear to you, we were getting ready to do it. January 2020. I swear to you, I promise we were getting ready to do it. And then this little thing that I didn't forecast came along called COVID. Just shut it all down. Just shut it. I swear we were getting ready to do it. I swear, I promise, guys. I promise. COVID happened, shut it down. So fast forward a whole almost 18 months later, I have an opportunity to truly move into New Britain. Maggie and Marcus come with me in the next week or two. We're gonna go visit a potential partner site, see if we're gonna be on their board, do the whole thing. Right, guys. Like I've been worried about thinking about New Britain for forever because it's like geographically in the center of the state, and it makes a whole lot of sense programmatically. And it's been like that for 3 years, Marcus, 4 years maybe. Like seeing tomorrow because I've already been there. Like I'm there, and I'm bringing my team with me, and they are like, I mean, okay, we're on going on for the ride. But a leader has to see tomorrow even when no one else sees it, even when you're considered crazy. I mean, don't get it twisted. I'm not crazy, and it's founded in some sort of fact. Maggie's laughing, right? You laughed way too fast at that, Maggie. I'm not crazy, but there's substance to that. There's substance to that. You got to see tomorrow, so it's visual. And I'm gonna get to your comment in a minute. That's a really interesting comment you made. The second leg to self leadership, after you set the mental tone and you establish mental images in your head, the next thing that must happen is that those images must travel down to your body. It becomes physical. You must behave now. Behavior. This is what behavior is. Behavior is a response or reaction to what the brain has conjured up. All right. My mind has thought about chocolate cake, and I've thought about how soft and supple it is. I thought about how good a slice of chocolate cake would be with a cold glass of vanilla almond milk, sweetened. And I kept thinking about it and visualizing and thinking about it and visualizing to the point that I got up, went to the fridge, got that chocolate cake, warmed it up, and the icing is melting just right. Got me a tall glass of vanilla almond milk. I sat down late at night and I consumed chocolate cake. My body behaved according to what my mind conjured up. How many times has that happened to you when you've thought about something, even crazy things you shouldn't do, and you all of a sudden find yourself floating into the kitchen doing it? You don't know how you got there. And then fill in the blank with other crazy examples of you doing something at work you know you shouldn't be doing, but you've already thought about it. Now you're doing it. Personal examples, like it happens all the time. So in self leadership, the mind leads, the body follows, right? The body behaves accordingly. And the third leg to self leadership is reward, the reward process, meaning enjoyment. So, in order for someone to be a self leader or to find themselves leading themselves towards a goal, they have to have the capacity to envision a tomorrow. A lot of our team members, frontline staff, middle managers cannot see past tomorrow, not just because they're geographically not able to in terms of their position in the organization. A lot of people are just satisfied with the status quo and the right now and aren't sweating tomorrow. It's just who they are. It is what it is. That's how they feel. So it's difficult to have them to do anything else if you can't get them to think differently or see tomorrow differently or think differently about their situation. If you're going to develop self leaders, you can't push and make people do stuff. That's the behavior stuff. People will do stuff if you get on their nerves bad enough. That's just them trying to placate you and shut you up. That's behavior. The problem with making people do stuff is that they've never mentally made the shift and they aren't finding any rewards in the process or the journey. Hence, you have staff who do what you ask them to do, but they grumble the whole time. They roll their eyes the whole time. They don't do their best the whole time. They've exhibited a behavior, but haven't made the mental shift nor the reward shift to make it personal. Does that make sense to you guys? If not, let me know in the chat what part I'm leaving out. If it doesn't, if it makes sense to you on Clubhouse, just raise your hand in Clubhouse. That way I know that it's connecting. A lot of us are finding ourselves pushing, making staff do stuff, and they don't want to do it. So you're getting one of the three components out of self leadership without it really having effect. And you have these lack of quality or unquality. You have these poor quality relationships with your staff. So perhaps it begins with Perhaps developing talent and developing self leaders begins not with rewards. You can't reward people for bad behavior or non existent behavior because then they expect it all the time, right? You can't make people do it because you've been doing it all your career, pushing people, pulling people, prodding people, bribing people to get stuff done. And it still ain't done right. And you're still fixing it in the background. Doesn't work, right? Perhaps, perhaps we need to work on the mind. It's much easier to intellectually influence and engage someone that you share personal values with to help them grow and think different here first, all in the mind. And if it's not a fit, if they're unable to make shifts, you're not expecting people to replace you. That may not be your MO, but you expect people to want to do a better job at whatever their job is. If there's no mental desire, if there's no scenarios in their brain that fires off ways to do their job better, if they're not trying to solve problems, de-escalate situations, improve the quality of the services of our programs, that tells you that mentally they're not ready to lead themselves to do better. So it begins in the mind. There are some people you just want to keep them where they are. That's where they are. That's what it is. Everybody's not going to want to grow and develop. Maybe I should have led with that. Everybody's not going to want to go to the next level. There are some people who just want to stay down here, and you need those folks on your team. But if you're trying to develop talent so that you can develop a core team of support, a core team of leaders, a core team of individuals who are invested, begins here. It begins here. I can tell you a bunch of stories, but I'm going to tell you two short stories about my staff. The reason why I trust Marcus is because he has this thing in his mind where he says he's harder on himself, right? And he is, and I think Maggie and I would agree with that. But for me, when I listen to him process how he deals with himself, how he wrestles with his own way of doing things, to me it tells me he cares a lot. He cares enough to identify I made a mistake or I could have did this better and I need to shift. He doesn't stop with I think I should do better. He thinks about it, he processes it, starts here, and then I personally observe the physical action, the behavior, where he tries to make an effort to fix it. And then I get a kick out of when he finds those light bulb moments, the oh, those moments, Maggie, when he just goes in the deep, oh, and then he gets all nerdy, right? Those are the reward moments. That's the full cycle of self leadership, right? I will tell you funniest story, Maggie, that we share together. I don't know if Marcus, he wasn't there when it happened. During your interview during COVID, which was weird, right? It was COVID. We're sitting in a coffee shop. It was crazy noisy. It was, I swear to you, it's normally not that noisy, I promise. It just so happened to be that noisy, right? Then, moments into her presentation with a full mask on, right? A squirrel runs into the coffee shop. Like legit. A squirrel runs to the coffee shop and just goes bonkers, right? And the whole situation happened. The squirrel runs out. Everybody's like excited the squirrel's gone. And to me, while that was a funny moment, I'm staring at Maggie. And the reason why I love doing interviews in a coffee shop, particularly when it's a lot of distractions, because I'm curious as to how focused a person can be when crap happens. 'Cause I need to know, how do you handle distractions? Like I don't have time to kind of bring you back. I don't feel like it. I'm not babysitting you. And it was really interesting kind of watching her process that, navigate that, and still give an amazing presentation. Marcus showed up sometime later. She gave the same presentation, kept her composure. And I've watched Maggie maintain that same behavior, that same kind of self leadership poise throughout her 6 month journey, right? I didn't know you hate squirrels. I didn't know that. And so for me, guys, I'm telling you, this is a personal story. I have tons of them. You got to make sure you have people on your team that align with personal values first. If not, it's a uphill battle, super uphill battle. Secondly, it begins here. It begins here. Now, if you find somebody who has the mental capacity to do the work and make changes and make the shifts, great. But they lack the discipline to actually do it, run. So it's a three-legged stool, guys. If a self-leader, a supposed self-leader, can think it but not do it, run. They don't have the discipline to make it happen. They don't have the discipline to follow through. They don't have the discipline to stay the course. They don't have the discipline to fight through pain and frustration and anger. Run. All right, maybe they got the mental capacity, maybe they have the discipline, but they don't find any joy, any happiness, any excitement about growing and learning and being. They're always a sourpuss. Read my lips. Run. Stop promoting people who don't fit the bill. Well, they got 2 to 3. Don't do it. Stop hiring people that got 1 to 3. Don't do it. Don't do it. I do want to go back to Ann's question, Marcus. I'm going to invite you to answer Ann's question, then I'll open it up to the stage. Here's Ann's questions for the good of the group. Hey, Joy, glad to have you here. Dr. Joy, I'm sorry. Don't want to be disrespectful, Dr. Davis. Here's Ann's question, or comment rather. Marcus, would love to get your feedback. If you're passionate about your job, you almost always do a good job. If you're passionate about your job, you almost always do a good job. To that, you say what?
I would not agree with that, right? The reason why I wouldn't agree with that is because passion doesn't translate into success, right? You can have all the zeal, all the excitement, all the love for the work is possible. But if you don't know how, or if you don't have the skill set to do the work, if you don't know how to follow the directions, follow the policy, because sometimes, right, passion can be great, but passion can also get you shut down because you love the customer so much you're willing to break the rules, right? That's that that's what that passion can sometimes get you. So what I would share is that it's great to have a combination of passion and skills as well as discipline. I think.
Yeah. Others, and Ann, feel free to come off mute and share your thoughts here. Others, what are your thoughts? If you're passionate about your job, you almost always do a good job. Any other thoughts there? Hey, Ann.
Hi.
How you doing?
If I can comment. Hi, Marcus. We had a nice chat
Hey,
on our last call. Okay, I can't speak for anybody else, but me personally, I have been put in positions where my personal values have made me passionate about what it is I was assigned to do. And that passion is what drove me to do the best possible job I could do and got me getting up in the morning, looking forward to going to that job and feeling a sense of accomplishment every day. So for me, that's how that works. Like I said, I can't speak for anybody else. And regardless of whether I have passion about a job or not, my personal values always make me do the best job that I can possibly do. So, but I'd rather have passion in a job.
You know, I'll defer to the group because I think I see where you're going. Go ahead, Ren.
I was going to say, I think.
Hey, Ren, hold on 1 second, Ren. Dr. Joy, if you want to come to the stage, feel free to raise your hand. We'll get you in the conversation. I'm sorry, Ren. Go ahead.
I think sometimes it's misplaced passion. I think what Ann is saying is very true. If you're passionate about, because it's a value of yours. I mean, as she was saying that, I was thinking of things that in my work I get very passionate about, and I'm very, I have a very solid line that I want to make sure that is accomplished. But I think sometimes passion is misplaced when it is, you're not allowing a person to develop, or you're not really doing your full job. Like you said, you're bending the rules. Maybe you're spending too much time on case management with someone because they aren't doing it for themselves. That's misplaced passion. It's making you feel good, but it's not really accomplishing the whole job.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Others. Hey, Ann, come on in.
Well, I was just going to say, and I understand what you're saying, Ren, and I do agree to a point also. However, you know, in just from my own personal background, I don't coddle people. I try to encourage independence. I'm not going to do everything for them because, you know, it's like, do I feed them the fish or teach them how to fish?
Right.
And
Yeah.
I would rather teach them how to fish and help them along the way. Only my personal feelings. Again, I can't speak for anybody else, but I do understand what you're saying.
Mhm.
And in many
And
of the, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, and I know I totally agree with you. And when you use the analogy to teaching, I think that's one of the most difficult things in being a good teacher is you give them, like you say, you teach them how to fish, but in order for them to do that successfully, they got to fall and fail a few times, figure out
Mhm.
how their process is. And your passion is you might support, but you don't do it for them. You know when to step back. I think that's what I'm hearing you say as well.
Absolutely. And I was fortunate enough to work with special ed high school kids for 20 years and develop a transition program for them, as well as youth that were incarcerated in a broad spectrum of various people in other programs that I did after school. And, you know, I wrote task analysis and I did teach and encourage. And one of the things that I did notice in trying to determine what direction to put people in is that if they had the desire, that was half the battle. Then I would point them in that direction and support that desire. And I even had a young man come to me one day and he said, Miss, I think I know what I want to do. Do you think I could do it? And I said to him, if you want to do it, you'll do it. You know, because you've got the drive now, the push, you
Mhm.
figured it out. So yeah, I'm not going to coddle people.
Mhm.
But
But
I will,
what I will say, Ann, right?
yes.
I think you are talking about you, and you're talking about you from the context of what we all want. you you are the team member we want, right? However, there are folks that we've worked with who have tons of passion
Mhm.
and are deeply unskilled.
I
Deeply, they
agree.
lack discipline. They lack focus. They don't respond well to structure, even though they understand what CRI does is a business.
Mhm.
This is not a daycare center. Remember that, Marcus. Remember when I said that
Mm.
we're not adult daycare? That made so many people on my former staff so mad. But
But
you're
and the other,
describing what we desire: someone who's passionate with skill, who understands balance,
and I
right?
think
And
the other
that's
point to
distinct
that,
different. Come on, Ren.
the other point to that too is the person who is unskilled and has that passion, but they don't have that desire to improve so they can make that passion build a
Right.
larger leadership, self-leadership, a goal, a
Mhm.
larger goal. They just want to sit there and feel passionate and feel like they're doing good for the world when they're
Yeah.
really not. And
Uh,
that's that fine line.
Yeah. That's
yeah,
good.
you see that all the time. I've seen that. Oh, I'm going to save the world,
Hmm.
but you don't
Need to.
have the right idea or skills. And yes,
Right.
I'm only speaking from my perspective because I can't speak from, you know,
Yeah.
from anybody else's viewpoint. But
Yeah. I
yeah.
totally get it. I love it. Others, I mean, what are you taking away from today's conversation? What's kind of sticking out to you? What's like gnawing at you right now? You guys can come off mute. Feel free.
I'll chime in. Something that was gnawing at me when you was kind of talking about it earlier was when we were going through that exercise, right? When we're talking about where do we see, where do we need to improve, and how we almost manage others against our improvements, but we're not consistent enough to kind of see the growth in other people because we never seen the growth in ourselves. I think one of the things that exercise shown me specifically is that I think I need to think more deeply about, areas of where I need to improve, because it seems like when you got, I'm going to say, I believe it seems like when you have your things together, right, and you come through that process of kind of growing and becoming more, you can recognize those weaknesses in others and then help them train through it. So I think when we was kind of labeling where we can get better or where we want to see improvement, I think I put in two. And I struggled, right? I could think about a lot of the things that me, you, Maggie, and probably Ren talk about, but I'm like, what else, right? Like what else? And I think it caught me off guard. Traditionally, I'm the first person to tell you a million things wrong about myself, right? And maybe two things right. But I think that caught me off guard. And I think that's one of the things that's sticking out inside of my head, like just continuously being mindful of where I can improve and how my improvements will impact others.
I like to chime in too. I was actually waiting for Marcus. I could tell his hand was like right there, ready to turn it on. So, but I agree. And I think that one of the things that for me and probably for most people is you view these like little things as, it's not a big deal. It's insignificant, right? It doesn't really matter. But these little things, right? Like I had one of the things I wrote into was, starting and ending meetings on time. Like it's a small thing, but it kind of cascades into so many other areas, right? So many other things. So I think just we need to be mindful about that. Like no matter how small or little we think that change or improvement is, it tends to be actually larger than what we realize, right? And also I think that kind of puts us on a path where it's easier to tackle the small things, right? It's easy to do those small improvements versus looking at yourself and trying to think of like the big picture, because it's overwhelming sometimes you don't know where to start. So I think that by starting with those small things is really important to kind of build yourself and build your team and all of that. So I guess set realistic expectations.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. And if I could say one thing too, as an employment specialist, and I did corporate placement, I trained so many different groups. I used to have a top 10 best list of, or list of why people do a bad job. And the first one is the one that has always stuck with me. And it is because they don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because they've had insufficient training, because they're not comfortable going to a supervisor to get a straight answer, because, for a million reasons, they don't know what to do. And yet they'll be chastised for that instead of saying, what can I do to help you with this? Because you seem to be struggling and you have the potential. And I don't think anyone's ever, I've never heard that from anyone. I'm not talking about here because I haven't been here that long. But I think about that all of the time. And it's so true.
Yeah. Others, what are your takeaways from today? What are you going to implement today as a result of today's conversation? Or what questions do you have? Yeah, go ahead, Norbert.
I'm looking down the road, I like to, I think ahead of the game. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but hearing what you said, think about tomorrow, kind of bring it down. I'm gonna start moving in a direction where I can start putting it on paper so I can remember what I was thinking about and transmit it into direction to make things better, not for me, but for, pretty much where the staff is all about, because at times we have that vision that we see for others and we don't see it for ourselves. And, as a leader in the sense of your supervisor, if they see the passion to steer in the right direction, then at least, you'll move in that direction, and do a better job. Because sometimes you just need a little, not say you need a push, but the father that, the assurance that, what you're doing is worth pursuing, not just doing it just for the sake of it. I don't think I come to work with an idea of just being at work. And when I talk to my participant or customers, I'm looking for them, a career goal, not a job. I want them to see a career. People stay in careers for years. The job is just there for a couple months.
Yeah.
My vision down the road, moving forward.
What do you take away from today? Hey, Dr. Joy, come on in. I can hear you now, Dr. Joy. Hey.
Thank you so much. Thank you for bringing me up on the stage. I noticed you're on multiple platforms, just so high tech. I admire you. You're awesome. Yes. But thank you so much. One thing that I'm taking away from today's discussion of self-leadership, as I develop my nonprofit, and make it stronger, I think about myself as a leader and think about how, it's important for me at the onset to, like you mentioned earlier about vision, it's important for me every day and every single task that I do, think about that overall grand vision that I have and keep that in mind in every single task or interaction that I have in terms of the nonprofit. And I think that's what I took away, because sometimes, just to be frank, sometimes I get so overwhelmed, I lose my grand overall vision. And I'm only looking at the here and now today, what I can see. So I think your description earlier on in the talk was just a good reminder to me. Dr. Joy, think of the grand, overall long-term vision, even in the here and now. So I just want to thank you for that.
Awesome sauce. Well, folks, we have met our time. It is a couple minutes over, but I hope that today's session was helpful. And with that being said, we'll catch you in the next professional development session. Be well, stay safe, guys. See you
Thank
then,
you.
Joy.
Too.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
bye-bye.